We were having a conversation with Mez this morning, and I think this is something, a sentiment that a lot of people share. So to explain it kind of simply, this season in threes, and one of the reasons why I think a lot of people aren't bothered queuing is because they basically can't get rating. So people that would normally be pushing Gladiator, getting Gladiator, like people that are right on the threshold, you know, they go from like 2,300 to like 2,500, and they kind of float in between there, and they're slowly accumulating their Glad wins. That type of player right now is like, unless you're queuing at prime time, you're basically just stuck like 2,100. You're like 2K or 2,100, maybe even lower than that. But you basically, it's really, really difficult to gain rating unless you're queuing at prime time. And even at prime time, like you better be queuing the best comp in the game. You better bring your freaking A game, because getting 2,400 right now is not a joke. Like for a normal player, getting 2,400 is insane. Like when I queue the day and I'm playing at like 2,300, basically the only people I play against are other rank ones on their alts, people doing boosts, so rank ones on their alts doing boosts for people, and self-play, or other streamers, people doing boosts. Like it's really, really crazy. Or alts of, like I said, people that are really high rating. So you're basically fighting the top of the ladder during the day, and for like a normal person, it's basically you're not going to get 2,400. It's going to be really hard. And the Gladiator mount right now is basically the only carrot, I think, for queuing threes. I mean, it's nice, like, oh yeah, you get to queue with your friends, and it's more competitive, blah, blah, blah. But there's a big problem right now where there's a lack of inflation. So basically what they normally do, and there was a big post about this too, what they normally do is they add inflation. Like every single week that the season goes on, inflation gets added. So basically you artificially bump people up, because at the beginning of the season, you have all these people playing, right? Like tons and tons and tons of people are queuing, similar to what happened in Solo Shuffle. So you have all the people at the bottom kind of feeding rating on upwards, and people are making alts and they're feeding rating on upwards. And what happens is over time, rating keeps getting pushed higher and higher and higher and higher. But what happens in threes is people queued and then they stop queuing for whatever reason. Maybe they were happier just playing Solo Shuffle, because it's easy for them to get games, whatever the reason may be. But you know, they get their gear, things like Gladiator being way too difficult to achieve. I think a lot of people just basically gave up. Like someone who would normally get Gladiator in Shadowlands, right now they're hard stuck like 1,800 to 2,100. So they're not even close. I mean, I drew a visual representation. Like the only carrot that you have, like, you know, we're the horse, we're the donkey, and the only carrot that Blizzard has for us to actually queue threes right now over Solo Shuffle is the Gladiator mount. But they made the Gladiator mount way too hard to get. And you know, there are some people that are like, back in my day, Gladiator was really hard to get, blah blah blah. I don't really share that opinion. I think it's better that like the Gladiator mount and the Gladiator title is accessible to more people. And it's not like you're a total noob if you're getting Gladiator either. Like you're like a super solid player. But right now it's extremely hard because there's no inflation. And they basically said, we made a mistake. We didn't add inflation, but we're going to start. But I think it might be too late. I think what they need to do, there's a few different ways that they could approach it. Like I said, I was speaking to Mez this morning. I feel like they need to do like an MMR bomb for people right now. They literally need to like drop a bomb of MMR like next week. Not wait for a new patch. Like literally just drop a little MMR gift package for everybody on the ladder, like plus 150 MMR. Like go back and kind of retroactively fill up the MMR that we should have been getting, that they admitted was a mistake not to add, to like encourage people to actually play and push ratings. Because yeah, people, when their rating isn't going up, it's not, you don't feel like you're making any progress. I think Mez made a really good point. He tweeted something. He's like, imagine like for, you know, the entirety of Mythic Plus, you're kind of doing like +9s and you're slowly acquiring gear. But as the season goes on, now you can only do 8s. Like you're getting more and more gear, but you're not progressing on your key size at all. And that's what playing 3v3 feels like right now, is your rating isn't actually going up. You know, like I said, unless you're like playing the best comps with the best people during prime time. Like if you're like a day queuer like me, you're only fighting like European rank ones that are playing on the North American servers doing boosts, other streamers playing their alts. Like there's not a lot of variety. You know, normally when I queue, it's like I fight one team 10 times in a row, and then they either stop or we stop, depending on what's going on. But yeah, Another thing that they could do is what this is Mez's idea, because the way inflation kind of works now, where it's just like, oh yeah, no matter what, every single week that goes by, it's a plus 20 inflation. Like I don't know if that's necessarily the best approach. And Mez kind of convinced me that what they could do instead is like snapshot the ladder. Like basically you look at all the three, like everybody that's playing threes. And if rating went up that week, you don't add inflation. Like if the general like rating went up that week, maybe you only add a little bit of inflation depending on how much it moves. And if it went down, like people are actually losing rating, less people are queuing, blah, 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 you add more inflation. And you kind of do it that way. So inflation doesn't get like a crazy high amount, but it also like there's a natural progression of actually like keeping people actively playing, because no matter what happens, like as the season goes on, there's going to be less people playing, right? Like it is a fact that when people get their gear and they like unlock their elite set, like I'm not like, they could just be, I'm not a gladiator player, I don't care, there's no rewards for me, I'm just not going to play, so I'll just wait till next season. So there are people like that that just don't want to play. But there's also like a hardcore World of Warcraft fan base right now that normally can like push glad throughout the season, maybe get glad, you know, a few months into the season, get the reward, which is really, really cool. And, you know, they're super happy. And then maybe they try to get glad on their alts or whatever as well. But that isn't happening right now. I think that the amount of deflation in the game, the amount of like the way the rating is, it's just demotivated so many people to actually even try. And solo shuffle, don't get me wrong, is awesome. I love solo shuffle, but I don't think it's an issue of like, oh yeah, threes is just an outdated dead bracket, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. I think it's actually an issue of you can't gain rating. You can't gain rating in threes, and it's discouraging for people. Like, you know, think what you want about 3v3. I personally love it, and I know a lot of people love it, but the biggest problem right now is LFG. First of all, LFG just sucks, so I agree with that, but a bigger problem is like there's not anyone in LFG because people have just given up on getting Gladiator. You know, it's like the coolest mount that they ever added, and I feel like it should be, you know, at least reasonably accessible to people that are like hardcore World of Warcraft fans. They PvP every season. You know, they got Glad in every single season of Shadowlands, and now those players are hard stuck 2100 because Blizzard decided that they don't want to add inflation. And, you know, they admitted it was a problem, but I think they need to do more than just, okay, 20 rating a week, because the game right now, I feel like, is just bleeding people in threes. So I really want them to like act a little bit more and just actually just drop a bomb, because at the end of the day, people are gonna, I don't think it really hurts the ladder to, you know, give people a bunch of rating. Basically give people a bunch of rating, let them go up in their rating, let you know the hardcore people get their gladiator mounts, and yeah, because right now it's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. I also think this is another thing Mez and I talked about, is like the idea of removing all the inflation at the beginning of the season. Like when the season comes out, there's like basically what they do is like they inflate the rating a whole bunch. So like at the end of the season, you'll have a player who like kind of progresses from, I don't know, like 1800 to like 2400 or 2500 or 2600, and that's like their natural progression. But it feels really bad, and they actually tweeted about this as well. It feels really bad when somebody's playing at 2600, then the season resets, and now they're hard stuck 1800 because there's no inflation. I think they need to do like a better job at the beginning of the season and not deflate the ladder so much. You know what I mean? They need to figure out the people that are like getting glad and actually like put them at like an appropriate MMR, or closer to an appropriate MMR at the beginning of the season, without just kind of like nuking it all. Because I think that's also one of the reasons why solo shuffle is so popular, is because people are getting dopamine and rewards that they've never got before from solo shuffle, right? Like they're getting like 2400 for the first time, they're getting 2500 for the first time, 2600 for the first time, and yeah, they're super stoked about it. But I do think solo shuffle inflation is a little bit too crazy. You know, it's a bit too crazy, but I think there's a better happy medium between the two. And I think people should be able to like work towards their gladiator mount and stuff. And I think they need to do something sooner rather than later, because threes is extremely dead. The only time you can queue threes, unless you want to fight, like I said, like rank ones, even before you even get to glad range, you're fighting rank ones. I think yesterday I fought like, who was it? I thought like Thugonomics and Tuna and Axton at like 2300. I mean, these guys are, you know, playing in the AWC. They're some of the best players in the entire game, and we're fighting them at 2300, which is pretty funny before you even have a chance to get it. And also, I think in general, just as a side note, I think the whole way we do rewards in WoW isn't that great, because it seems like rating is kind of arbitrary. So this is the last point I'm going to make. I personally feel like the rating in WoW is kind of like arbitrary. 2400 one season could be like top 200 on the ladder, and 2400 the next season, or, you know, the season prior, could be top 5000 on the ladder, which is kind of weird, right? I feel like you could do something like League of Legends does, and I'm not sure exactly how League works, but I'm pretty sure you kind of like gradually work your way up through the tiers, and then it's really hard to be kind of like demoted once you do. So you work your way through copper, and then once you do copper, you're in kind of the silver league, and then you work your way through silver, and then you get into gold, and then after you get into gold, you go into platinum, and then after platinum, you get into diamond, and then you get into like masters or whatever, you know? And that could be another way for people to kind of progress through the ratings. But I feel like the rating system and reward system in WoW is like really outdated and could use a revamp to like encourage and service the casual player a bit more. Not even the casual player. I'm telling, like, when I say casual player, there's still people that like, they love World of Warcraft. They want to play World of Warcraft. I see it in my stream, man. I have friends in my stream that, you know, they play every single season of World of Warcraft, and right now they're just not logging in at all because they don't have anyone to play threes with. They can't find anybody to queue with. Their rating's not going up. They don't care. They've given up. It's not fun. And that's really sad to see, because I feel like this expansion has so much good going for it. But people just, yeah, people can't do much. The meta itself sucks. Yeah, but the meta wouldn't be so bad. Like, you're like, people complain that like you can't play the game right now and you can't get Glad unless there's an Asa Rogue. But if kind of the Asa Rogues were inflated a little bit higher and you didn't have to only fight against Asa Rogues, I don't think it would be so bad, right? Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too. Twos needs a reward system. I'm personally of the feeling that like they need to do updated reward structure for RBGs. I feel like RBGs is another very underserviced community right now. Like they haven't got anything in a long time. Those poor RBG players, man. Twos as well. I just think like I'm just trying to imagine like classic, like. Imagine like right now in classic WoW, because I saw somebody mention this, like imagine in classic WoW, 2v2, like what would happen to Wrath of Lich King Classic if they made it so 2v2 no longer gave Gladiator, it no longer gave rank 1. 5v5 no longer gave Gladiator, no longer gave rank 1. What would happen to those brackets, do you guys think, as a thought experiment? What would happen if you just got no rewards for playing 2s and 5s? Not only do I think it would kill 2s, not only do I think it would kill 5s, but I also think it would just kill the game, like straight up. So I just think if you're gonna have competitive, you're gonna have like these nice rated competitive modes, I feel like they all need to be rewarding in their own way, right? Because if I had a reason to give a shit about 2s or RBGs, I would. If there was like some really cool like mount that I could earn, or title, or like some really cool like cosmetic sword, or like, you know what I mean? If there's something to make me want to care about these brackets every season, I would play them. But there's nothing. There's no reason. Someone says, wrong, it needs to be fun. I mean, yeah. But what I don't think a lot of people realize is when you add rewards, I personally feel like it becomes more fun when there's more variety, right? Like I don't think the game is that bad right now. The problem is at the highest ratings, when you can actually earn rewards, like it becomes very sweaty outside of Soul Shuffle. Soul Shuffle, you know, there are classes that are super strong, but it's not, you still get a good amount of variety. Like it's very rare where I'm just like fighting the same thing over and over and over when I queue Soul Shuffle, right? The problem right now is the only people that care about playing 2s is that they're the ones that want to be at the top of the ladder, and they're playing the most OP stuff, right? So if you actually fought like different classes because there was a bunch of people playing, I don't think it would be nearly as bad. You know what I mean? Fistweaver, a monk, warrior, and Disc Asa is the entire ladder. Yeah, I believe it, 100%. Someone said, I think Soul Shuffle killed Dragonflight. No, I don't think that's true. I think I understand why people think that, but I actually don't think it's true. I think that they did something this season that they've never done before, and it actually was a huge mistake. They admitted it was a mistake, and we need we need help, dude. We need like an emergency SOS. I think more people than ever are playing WoW PvP because of Solo Shuffle, but I do think that 3v3, like so much of World of Warcraft is, you know, making friends. Whether you want to believe this or not, I really think the thing that keeps people playing World of Warcraft is like actually making friends and, you know, being in a guild and finding people to play 3v3 with. But I just think if there's no rewards or incentive to actually play the brackets, then, you know, that kind of stuff just kind of goes out the window, because you need people to play in order to make friends.